From Jake Paul running away from Floyd Mayweather, to Anderson Silva and Chael Sonnen having one of the biggest feuds in MMA. Fighters have been beefing with each other since the start of the sport. Here are some of the fighters that have unfinished beef with each other, starting with Jake Paul and Floyd Mayweather. Now, you guys already know I was going to talk about these two first in the video, because the tea is just boiling hot. The two have had beef for the longest time, but it was never this bad until this one incident in Miami. You know what I'm talking about. The time when Jake Paul, YouTuber turned boxer, infamously ran away from Floyd when he was confronted by him. Now, this isn't like the character that Jake has put on for the world to see. So not only was the whole thing very funny to watch, but it was also kind of shocking. It was outside of Miami-Dade Arena that Floyd confronted Paul. At first, Paul decided to engage in the conversation for a little bit. But soon afterwards, he was seen making a runaway from Floyd as the legend recorded him on his phone. In the video, you can hear someone calling Jake a running champ, and then asking why he was running.
Where you going, Jake? Oh, he's running! He's running! Look at him!
Now, obviously, this is not the Jake we all know, or at least not the persona he wants us all to know of. So he decided to talk about the video soon after Floyd posted it. And you might want to hear what he said. The 26-year-old took to his Instagram account and decided to clear the air. And to be honest, his name for being scared of Floyd. Obviously, after the amount of trash talking Jake has done for Floyd, everyone thinking he was just all talk wasn't going to be that great for him. He wrote and told his followers about the night that it all happened, saying that, unlike the video shows, Floyd wasn't there alone to confront him. Instead, he had around 50 other guys with him, while apparently Jake only had one bodyguard with him at this point. He continued telling his followers about how Floyd said, "So what's up? What's all that talk now?" To this, Paul replied asking him what he had even said to Floyd that offended him so much, saying that all he did was take his hat. Paul then told us about how right after he said this, around 50 guys crept out of the dark, ready to beat him up. And that's when Paul decided to run from the scene. You guys might be wondering what Jake meant from the whole taking the cap thing. Well, let me tell you about it a little. He was referring to the time at the pre-fight media event back in 2021, the one for Mayweather's exhibition match with Logan Paul, his brother. When Jake took off Mayweather's cap and got jumped by Mayweather's crew. But that's not why Floyd confronted him. Then what is? Let me tell you the actual reason behind what Floyd did. Now, any person who's been keeping up with their beef would know that Jake isn't being completely transparent in his statement. The fact is that it wasn't just the cap incident back in 2021 that offended Floyd, but a source revealed some things that make a lot more sense. Obviously, Floyd isn't the kind of person to react so strongly just because Jake took his cap, especially after he already got beat up by his crew for it. So what was the reason? Well, according to this source, Floyd is still mad at the YouTuber for the way he talked about some deceased members of Floyd's family and other below-the-belt inappropriate behavior, the source added. But enough about the beef between Jake Paul and Floyd Mayweather, because this next beef that I'm going to tell you guys about is just as spicy. Yep, I'm talking about the beef between Matt Hughes and Matt Serra. The feud between these two Matts hasn't always been there. They were okay with each other, but that all changed in 2007. Turns out, the two are apparently still feuding with each other after all these years. But why? Well, it all started after Hughes' reign at welterweight, and after Serra won the 4th season of The Ultimate Fighter back in 2007. After Serra had won the title and snatched it from St. Pierre, he got a little ahead of himself and started talking trash about a lot of other fighters. But the one fighter he trash-talked the most was his namesake, Matt Hughes. According to Serra, Hughes was disrespectful and bad for the sport, whatever that meant. Even after the two went face-to-face in a fight back in 2009, their beef didn't end. Fans have been waiting ever since for another chance to watch these two fight each other, in hopes that it might finally end the beef they have going on. But I don't think they'd stop hating each other after just a fight. Just like these two probably won't squash their beef for a long time. Shamrock and Don Frye. Now, the beef between these two is pretty iconic, so you know I had to mention it. In fact, this was probably the first actual full-on feud in the UFC. And along with that, a lot of people think this feud is the reason behind the crossover of MMA and wrestling fans in Japan and America. It was kinda started by Frye, after he threw some pretty harsh and personal insults toward Ken, including comments about Ken's father. One good thing that this feud did was generate a huge amount of hype for their fights. I mean, people went wild whenever there was news of these two facing each other, because they knew the fight was going to be pretty intense. And when they did fight in Japan, it was a treat for the eyes. Frye ended up dominating the fight, but Ken didn't appear weak either. After the fight, Frye said that the fight completely changed him, and that he gave his all because it meant so much to him. So even though the fight changed both the fighters inside and out, one thing that didn't change was how they felt about each other. They did say that they respected each other after the fight. It's probably far from reality, though. They haven't trash-talked each other after that one fight, but fans are sure their beef is still as much alive as it was before the fight. Just like the beef between Silva and Chael Sonnen. Chael is one of the greatest players of all time, but he's also known for the amount of trash-talking he does. And this habit has gotten him into feuds with quite a few fighters, including Silva. The beef started before their showdown at UFC 117, when Sonnen threw quite a lot of harsh criticism, taunts, and insults towards Silva. And this trash-talking and newly grown beef generated a huge amount of hype for their fight, which made a lot of fans think that it was all planned. When the two finally got to fight each other back on the 7th of August, 2010, the arena was filled with fans going wild. Sonnen came out of the gate looking like he was born ready for this moment. And it seemed that way in the fight, too, until the 5th round, when Silva dominated. After Sonnen lost to Silva, he didn't really change a lot. He still talked smack about Silva in the same way. But knowing Sonnen, no one was surprised at this. Although Silva rarely spoke about Sonnen the way Sonnen talked about Silva, it was obvious that Silva felt strongly about Sonnen. But Silva made up for it in his performance in the octagon when he had to fight Sonnen. And that was all about some of the fighters with unfinished beef.